Alright, so this will be a short instructional video on how to change a vs4-10 Phoenix straight axle to an hd44 axle. And this will be the rear axle only. So first things first, you're going to have to disassemble all your linkage, your shocks, and take off the tires. So just got it fully disassembled. Here's the axle out of the truck. That bolt or the nut on there is a 5.5mm. It comes off there. And now we'll start getting stuff switched over. Alright, so first things first, you're going to want to take off all 8 of these screws on the back side of the diff. Right, once you get all 8 of those unscrewed, this diff cover should just pop right off. And our next thing will be to pull these axle shafts out. Alright, so you actually don't have to pull this off. This is my first time doing this. You will need to remove, there's a set screw here and a set screw here to take this cap off. Pops right off and you'll be able to pull your axle shaft right out. This is what it looks like before. One on both sides, pull both of those all the way out and you should be able to pull your axle shaft right out. Alright, so here's the axle shafts after they're out and you're left with your center gear. This should be able to just pull right out, which it does. And we will be replacing these 2 side, I don't know what you call those, that just popped off. There's a bearing that sits in there. Those will need to be popped into here, and these will be the new set points. Alright, once you get this far, you no longer need this F10 axle. We'll be working over on the hd44 now. Correction, we still need this diff cover. We need to transfer over this, I don't know what gear you call that, but we need to transfer that over to the inside of the hd44. And this is the first thing that has to transfer. You will undo this set screw right here. That's actually not a set screw. It's it's got a pin running through it for the drive shaft, and the drive shaft will pop right out. And this pinion gear, there will be 2 bearings in there and a spacer, so make sure you don't lose that spacer. Yeah. Alright, so that spacer there goes on the outside of this bearing for the drive shaft. There's their other bearing, both sides, and you will put that little gear back in place. So the very next step, after you get that gear in there, pop the bearing out of that piece and this piece and transfer them over to the new ones. Alright, so after you get those bearings put in, pop this back onto your ring gear, those little clamps, and it should just drop right into your axle housing. Mine won't because I can't do it one-handed, but it should just drop right in. Comes with 4 new screws, self-explanatory. They go in there. After you get those screwed in, make sure you use blue Loctite on everything that does not have a nut, so use that. So your next thing to go on will be your red diff cover. 2 little baby set screws that will go in that hole there and the other hole on the other side. Not exactly sure what those are for, to be honest. Maybe for greasing. I don't know why you'd ever need that after it's sealed. But red diff cover, make sure you use blue Loctite. Quick tip for the diff cover, make sure you use a 1/16 inch either Allen key and not a metric. A 1.5mm fits in there, but it will strip those screws or bolts out. Alright, so diff cover screws in. These little set screws, both in. Next thing you gotta do, set your drive shafts, put them in, and they give you 2 new caps. There's the old ones. You don't need those anymore. And 4 new screws as well. Make sure you use blue Loctite and get those put on, and I'll come back. Alright, very next thing you gotta do, after you get those end caps put on, attach your drive shaft back on. I will not be reusing the stock ones. I have an upgrade. Just put that set screw back on and you'll be good. If you also happen to be upgrading your drive shafts, you're going to have to remove your battery tray to get to the set screw on here. Alright, your kit should have came with 4 nuts, 4 bolts, that longer bolt, and 2 balls for your shocks if you want to replace them. I'm gonna have to. My shocks had these extended ones, and I had a little gasket on there for a spacer. So I'm going to be able to use the stock ones now with hd44s. Your 4 bolts will all go, there's 4 holes there for your 4 links, and your shocks as well. Alright, so once you get all your linkage put on, bolts on, make sure the nuts go on there. Here's your top screw that it came with. Does not need a nut. And that's your hd44 rear.